will be genetically manipulated and nutrient deficient. Genetic manipulation of food causes complications in metabolizing and utilizing food for energy.
In June of 2003, scientists reported that the gene sequence of the inserted genes into crops had actually changed their order. They had re-scrambled. So the genetic inserts are not stable. Another laboratory confirmed this and found that it had changed in the same varieties in different ways that they had tested. So not only is it unstable and changing, it's not even uniform in the way it's changing. This is incredibly dangerous.
Nutrient deficiencies due to Codex's planned vitamin and mineral ban will cause billions of preventable diseases. Both of these will ultimately lead to billions of deaths.
Reach the
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
The only way they can pass this bill is by creating and sustaining a panic atmosphere. That atmosphere is not justified. The only way to pass a bad bill, keep the panic pressure on.
Of the government. The Bush administration tells us they have such a plan. They introduced a little sketchy public version that's clearly inadequate.
Many of us were told in private conversations that if we voted against this bill, and a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no. That's what I call fear-mongering.
The Security Committee of the United States House of Representatives access to their so-called detailed plan to provide for continuity of government.
Colonel North, in your work at the NSC, were you not assigned at one time to work on plans for the continuity of government in the event of a major disaster? Mr. Chairman.
I believe that question touches upon a highly sensitive and classified area. So may I request that you not touch upon that, sir?
I was particularly concerned, Mr. Chairman, because I read in Miami papers and several others that there had been a plan developed by that same agency, a contingency plan in the event of emergency that would suspend the American Constitution, and I was deeply concerned about it and wondering if that was the area in which he had worked. I believe that it was.
May I most respectfully request that that matter not be touched upon at this stage. If we wish to get into this, I'm certain arrangements can be made for an executive session.
Just when you thought the spectrum of eliminating the Earth's overpopulation was at its peak, at every turn was society consuming the inescapable poison, food, and drug supply. Once the global elites had staged another false flag attack in America. And yes, I said another false flag attack in America. The mainstream news will then subvertently brainwash the masses into believing that the terrorists were the ones responsible for the mayhem. Once this is in place, they're going to use this tragic event as an excuse to implement martial law, and that is the exact reason why they will do this. What is martial law? Well, from what you have learned in textbooks, mass media, and the internet, it goes a little something like this. Martial law authorizes the military to act vigorously for the maintenance of an orderly civil government. It is the exercise of the power which resides in the executive branch of the government to preserve order and ensure the public safety. It is the law of necessity to be prescribed and administered by the executive power. Its object, the preservation of the public safety and good order, defines the scope which will vary with the circumstances and necessities of the case. Many bills have been passed through legislation should martial law ever be declared, but what you don't know is that H.R. 1955 and Rex 84 are bills from which were passed through Congress with the intention of marrying these two bills together, then having them on standby until the state's attacks take place, inevitably provoking martial law to be declared with the stroke of a presidential pen. So what is martial law? Martial law is the limitless enforcement of all military personnel, including infantry, marines, SWAT teams, and police, to crowd up in every street in the United States, guarding every corner of every block with fully armed soldiers at every turn, observing your every move to make sure that you comply with the strict regulations of Homeland Security, ensuring that you never get out of line with the government. Curfews before dark will be imposed to every citizen in conjunction with every person obligated to spy on their own neighbors and report anything suspicious to standby authorities. But the reality of this totalitarian scheme coincides with the granddaddy of them all, the FEMA concentration camps. To break down what these concentration camps are exactly, you first need to understand that everything you might have learned about these detention centers up till this point have been whitewashed and distorted so that any individual who attempts to divulge the information regarding this matter will then quickly become subject of ridicule. So again, let us break down the basics of what this tyrannic plan really is. There are 3 color lists from which the US government created along with FEMA as their frontrunner once martial law has been implemented completely. The 3 cow tagging labels are the red list, the blue list, and last but not least, the yellow list. The red list is solely dedicated to exterminate and kill every and all outspoken patriots, ministers, talk show hosts, community leaders, net leaders, outspoken filmmakers and rappers, government-resistant families, and just about anybody who refuses to go along with the unconstitutional agenda. Every individual who falls on this red list is a threat to the global preparations for the establishment of a new world order, and will therefore result in every person being dragged out of their homes around 4 o'clock in the morning, get sent to the FEMA death camps after being rounded up, and then face execution. Next is the blue list. These people are basically the followers of the red list, but are not as outspoken and independent to seek the truth. These individuals will be rounded up by FEMA after martial law is in full effect, and will then be taken to the concentration camps in an attempt to be re-educated through various mind control methods, but most will not survive this tyrannic procedure. And lastly, we have the yellow list. These are the people who don't have the slightest clue about the New World Order, what it really is, and don't want to know at all. Majority of society falls in this category and are considered to be no threat whatsoever to the agenda, and will therefore be instructed as to how to behave, and will pretty much do whatever they are told. The catch to this matter though is that there will be too many of these individuals to be controlled effectively, so many of the rest will be killed or starved to death. but this still does not apparently